ends with ITE. Simply means it consists of three elements, that one of them is oxygen. Now, an example is sodium sulfite, where it consists of three elements. One of the elements is sodium, the second one is sulfur, and the third one is oxygen. Another example is magnesium sulfate. What does that simply mean? It means that it ends sulfite. So it simply means that one of the elements in this compound is oxygen. And then other elements that make up this compound, magnesium sulfite, include magnesium and sulfur. We have other compounds that end with ATE. This simply means that they have three elements. They constitute of three elements. And one of the elements there is oxygen. An example I can give is sodium sulfate. It ends with ATE. Now, let us look at some of the elements, constituent elements in this compound. We have sodium, and what else? Oxygen and sulfur. So you realize that these three elements are making up this compound. We have others that end with IDE. For example, I can give an example of calcium sulfide. What does that mean? It means compounds that have an ending IDE consist of two elements. Are we together? Yes. Two elements. ATE, three elements. ITE, three elements. So we need to know, if we have been given in an exam, for example, they can tell you, identify elements that make up the following compounds. And then they list for you. They tell you maybe sodium sulfite. And then they go ahead and tell you sodium sulfite. They go ahead and tell you zinc sulfate. You need to know the ending as far as the compound is concerned. But the bottom line is, you need to understand all the terminologies that we have talked about. You need to understand what an atom is. You need to understand what an element is. You need to understand what a molecule is. And finally, you need to understand what a compound is for you to be safe. Now, when we talk about chemical symbols, we are saying that symbols are unique for every element. Very unique. Just like majority of us have unique names. There's no way you will bear all my three names in the name of coincidence. Even if we share the English name, you might find we differ in terms of the surname and the family name. So we are unique. And that's why when you're looking for someone, mostly we normally use the surname, okay? Or we go and look for either the family name or something, or the middle name. So if you're looking for me, or I'm looking for you, and I know you are called Brighton, I cannot come in your place and say I'm looking for Brighton, because how many Brightons do we have? How many ears do we have? If I want to look for Ian, I'll go and say I'm looking for who? For Sirengo. And I'm sure if I am looking for Sirengo, how many Sirengos do we have? Probably Yeye na Baba Yake. Are we together? So they'll ask me, which Sirengo are you looking for? Is it Sirengo the old man, the Guka, or Sirengo the senior, or Sirengo the son? And I say I'm looking for Sirengo the son. So we say chemical symbols are unique, very unique, very much unique for every element. And they are usually represented by a letter. So we need to know. But we have certain rules that we normally follow when we are writing this chemical symbol. For example, if we have to write a chemical symbol of an element, if we have to write a chemical symbol of an element, this will mean that we need to know how they are derived. So we need to understand how they are derived. Some of them are derived from Latin. And some of them, by the way, we pick the first letter of that symbol. Others, we pick the first and the second letter. So it depends which criteria are we using to identify our chemical symbol. Very, very important for us. For instance, assuming I want to write a chemical symbol of an element that I'm deriving from the first letter. For example, carbon. You realize if I have to write the chemical symbol of this element, if I'm deriving the first letter, then I must write it in capital letter. I.e., the chemical symbol for carbon will be capital C. Are we getting one another? Yes. But if I have to derive it from the first two letters of that element, then the first one, I must write it in capital, and then the second one, I write it in small letter. So I need to know. For instance, let me look at elements that we derive from the first letter. And we have just given an example of carbon. We have nitrogen, we have oxygen, we have hydrogen, and we have lastly sulfur. These are the elements. And then we have their symbol. And we have others that we derive from the first two letters. I can give an example. So derived from first two letters. An example, we have calcium, we have cobalt. Which other one? Which other one? Magnesium. Which other one? We can go for chlorine. Which other one? Manganese. We have aluminium. Which other one? Which other one? Now, we have lastly another third category where we can derive these elements from Latin words. So derived from Latin. An example, we have sodium, which we derive it from Latin. we have mercury. Which other one? Copper, iron, gold, silver, which other one? Potassium and lead. Now let us begin with the elements that we derive their chemical symbol from the first letter, carbon. And we said if we are deriving from the first letter, it must be in capital letter. And if we are deriving it from the first two letters of the chemical word, then we need to first of all write the first letter in capital and the second letter in small letters. Now, sometimes when we are writing, we need to abbreviate them. So we need to understand, and majorly we normally use the English abbreviation type. So let us give an example here and complete this task. Carbon, the chemical symbol will be C, capital. Nitrogen, N. Oxygen, O. Hydrogen, H. And sulfur, S. So this is the chemical symbols. If we are given an element in an exam and you are told to be able to give the chemical symbol, this is how or what you are supposed to do. Now, let us look at calcium. Calcium, we are deriving from the first two, and therefore it will be capital C and a small a. Cobalt, it will be capital C and small o. Magnesium will be capital M and a small g. We normally pick the G and not the A. Chlorine, it will be capital C and a small H or L. L. Manganese, it will be capital M and a small L. Are we together? And then aluminium, it will be capital A and a small L and not I. Now let us look at elements whose chemical symbols are derivatives from Latin words. We derive them from Latin. For example, if we look at sodium, they are derived, the chemical symbol is derived from Latin word natrium. Natrium. And therefore the chemical symbol will be capital N, small a. Are you seeing how we are writing sodium now? And why N is coming in existence instead of S? Are we seeing? Because they are derived from Latin words. Another one, we have potassium, which we derive from Latin word kalium. And therefore the chemical symbol will be capital K. We have mercury, which is derived from Latin hydrogyrum. Let me look at the spelling. Gyrum. And therefore, our chemical symbol will be Hg. Are we together? Yes, Hg. For copper, Capran. And therefore, the chemical symbol will be Cu. For iron, it is derived from Latin ferrum, and therefore the chemical symbol will be Fe. What about gold? aurum. And therefore the symbol will be A, U, and silver. Silver? Silver? Yes. Argentum. And therefore the symbol will be A, G. So when we are asked about the idea of writing chemical symbols, you need to know what you are writing. I'm sure after the end of this topic, someone can meet you out there and they tell you to always, or someone just asks you a question. What is the chemical symbol of sodium? Alafu unaanza, oh, no, I don't know that one. You need to understand. You tell the person it is Na. And then the person will tell you, why not SO? You tell them, you see, for sodium, it is different because the chemical symbol is derived from Latin word, which is natrium. Someone can tell you, what is the chemical symbol of, for example, iron? And you tell the person, it is Fe, and when the person asks you, why? You say, because it is a derivative of a Latin word, which is ferrum, which stands for iron. I think up to there, I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you a question. Now, please take now the rest of the class. They also participate in this pole. And just look at chemical equation. And please don't just smile. I want to ask you a question. Now, what is the chemical symbol of barium? Is it derived from the first letter or the first two letters? Or from Latin? From the first two? So what will be the chemical symbol? B. How are you writing it? Capital B? Small a. Small a. So I want to look at the last part, which is chemical equation. Chemical equation. Now, once we have understood the chemical symbol, it becomes easier for us to know the chemical equation. Because with the chemical equation, we are using chemical symbols. Are we together? Yes. Another one. Yes. I can give you an example. In nursery school, when you're in nursery school, you learn about words, right? Your names, who was writing in your exercise book? Your parents or the teacher, right? Now, as you learn how to pronounce words and how to spell those words, once you have mastered how to spell and read those words, now your teacher was teaching you how to write your name using the